Hello, everyone. Today I'd like to talk about rock bands that have a dedicated horn section. Now, I did a video previously on one of my favorite groups of all time, regardless of genre, and that was Chicago. And ever since talking about Chicago, kind of got me thinking into other groups that have a dedicated horn section and you would consider them rock music. So I've been trying to think of groups that come into mind. The first one that came to my mind was Earth, Wind, and Fire. However, they don't really fit the criteria of rock, of being a rock group, in my opinion. They're more like a R&B, funk, soul, jazz kind of all together. That type of group. Um, Now, another one I could think about, that second thing that came to my mind was Tower of Power. And this actually falls more into that funk and R&B. So I wouldn't consider them part of that rock group, a rock group with a dedicated horn section. Now, for some reason, this popped up. One of the first that kind of originated the horns, the Buckinghams, are from Chicago as well. The problem with this group, I would consider them a rock group. However, and a lot of their music, like Kind of a Drag and so forth, you can hear the horns and all that. The problem is, it's not a dedicated horn section in a sense that none of the members on here actually played horns. What they did was, from what I understood, they added like session musicians and added horns to their songs. So although close, doesn't fit the criteria. So the only other band that kind of fits the description would be, and you probably would know this, Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Okay. So, Blood, Sweat, and Tears was a band that I knew of, but wasn't really into. And mainly because, first of all, they only had like two songs I heard on the radio, on the classic rock station. That would be Spinning Wheel and You Make Me So Very Happy. Those two songs. I know they had a couple later that I found out later, but those were the two main songs that I knew of. While Chicago, they had hit after hit after hit, 60s, late 60s, 70s, 80s, even though I'm not a big fan of the 80s whatsoever. But I mean, Chicago's just, the group, especially if you consider a rock group with a dedicated horn section. Now, for Blood, Sweat, and Tears, again, I just never really got into them. And I tried to really get into them by borrowing a CD, I think from the library. And it was their greatest hits. It was a single disc. I think their very original first edition greatest hits. And I've listened to it. And again, as I mentioned, outside of those two songs, I don't know. I just never got into them until this. It was years later when this was on clearance. This particular album, this is their double CD set. Pretty much has almost everything you can think of. Gave this a second listen. And this one changed my mind big time. Blood, Sweat, and Tears, this particular one. The reason being is not only there are more songs that I was able to listen to outside of that greatest hits, but kind of like Chicago, as I mentioned in that video, the songs I hear on the radio were like, and that greatest hits, that very first greatest hits, were edited versions, like radio edit versions of practically everything. So I never really got into it. However, this particular greatest hits double disc set contains their album versions of everything. Nothing cut, nothing edited, just their full blown album versions. And even the two songs I knew like Spinning Wheel and You Make Me So Very Happy, like this one. Like, it sounded totally different when you hear the album version because they didn't cut out any of the good parts, especially that long part with the horns and all that. That's why when I started hearing the full-blown album versions of Blood, Sweat, and Tears, it changed my mind totally. Completely changed my mind on that group. And basically, I wanted to say was originally, for me, it always has been Chicago one and only for a rock band with a dedicated horn section. I knew Blood, Sweat, and Tears, but I always thought they were really like second rate. Like, again, only 2 songs, and the horns weren't all that, weren't special, or, they seem to be just there to, kind of give some special effect or something like that. But listening to this greatest hits and all their music, not all, but, their whatever they consider their best, and listening to the full-blown versions of them, especially the hits, totally changed my mind. Completely changed my mind. And to me, Blood, Sweat, and Tears for a rock band with a dedicated horn section, to me, they're second to none. Second to none, hands down. Gotta give it a fair grade on it, and love them. Love this band as well. If you're interested in Blood, Sweat, and Tears, definitely pick this particular album. Get this album. The double disc Greatest Hits. I think it's called Greatest Hits. Let me check. It's called What Goes Up. The best of Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Okay, this is a double disc set. Get this one. If you ever had any doubts with Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and the only thing you listen to are like the radio edit version or just a minimal amount of their songs, get that. That's basically all you need for Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Highly recommend. All right, that's all I've got to say. Thank you. Bye.